This is straight talk, lead to straight understanding. Straight talk, STSU. This is straight talk, lead to straight understanding. Straight talk, STSU. This is straight talk, lead to straight understanding. Straight talk, STSU. This is straight talk, lead to straight understanding. Straight talk, STSU. This is straight talk, lead to straight understanding. Straight talk, STSU. This is straight talk, lead to straight understanding. Straight talk, STSU. This is straight talk, lead to straight understanding. Straight talk, STSU. This is straight talk, lead to straight understanding. Straight talk, STSU. This is straight talk, lead to straight understanding. Straight talk, this is straight talk, lead to straight understanding. Straight talk, STSU. This is straight talk, lead to straight understanding. Straight talk, STSU. This is straight talk.
Straight talk leads to straight understanding. What's going on, y'all? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Sean Bold and Sean B here. Straight talk leads to straight understanding. And I'm here today, and we're going to have a good show, y'all. We're going to talk about some things that, are often overlooked, and we're going to speak on it clearly. I'm going to get on the men first because that's just what I want to do. First off, the topic is emotional maturity. Once again, emotional maturity, y'all. The measure of great understanding. So, with that being said, we're going to discuss this. I'm going to discuss how men, yeah, we are emotionally mature. We are emotionally immature. We are emotionally immature several times. And we often show it and display it in certain kinds of ways. And we're going to discuss that tonight. But before we start anything, I just want to send a shout out to my partner who has lost his best friend, Alex, his dog. And I just want to send my prayers up to him. And I want everybody to send your good vibrations to him. He needs it in this time. So, Peter, we're with you. And we just want to say, stay strong, brother. Stay strong. And we're sorry for your loss. All right. And now, moving forward, emotional maturity. Is everybody familiar with emotional maturity? Let me ask you that. Is everybody familiar with emotional maturity? This is something that, sometimes we are faced with, and we don't even realize that we're suffering from emotional immaturity. Often we just feel like, yo, I'm mature. Mature comes with age. Maturity comes with time. Maturity comes with experience. And that's not always the case. Although sometimes it does, that's not always the case. It doesn't always come with these things. It doesn't always come with just because you're older that you're emotionally mature. Just because you're uh just because you're have time or you have experience that has matured you. Maturing you is really understanding, one, that you need maturity. That's the first thing. A lot of people don't understand that they need maturity. They just think that they're fine. They think that their habits are fine. They think that there's no room for growth. And if you have any room for growth, then you can mature in that area. All right. So we all have room to grow in a lot of different areas. Even if we have grown a lot in those areas, we still have room to grow. I have a lot of room to grow in maturing in life, maturing in emotions, maturing in a lot of different ways. And I think that we all do. We just don't always like to address it. We don't always like to admit it. We don't always like to be honest with ourselves. And as you know me, I really preach and I really emphasize how honesty is the core of great relationships, is the core of having that emotional maturity, is the core of keeping a balance that when our life is unbalanced. And it can come from several different places. It can come from different experiences. So I don't have any blueprints. Of course, I'm not a guru. I'm not a therapist. I'm not any of that stuff. Like I say, I'm not a therapist, although some things I say may be therapeutic, depending on how you receive it. It could be toxic, depending on how you receive it. It could be uh, a number of things, depending on how you receive it. But what it will be is honest. And honesty is something that I feel is the foundation of all relationships. I feel I don't really respect people who lie. I don't really respect people who cheat. I understand it. I, you know, can understand it. I can, in certain maybe opportunities or certain circumstances that it might be warranted. I might even understand it further and why. But usually, I think that having to lie comes out of fear. You're afraid of something, whether it be you're afraid of the consequences, whether you're afraid of losing something, whatever you're afraid of is usually the essence of fear, in my opinion. And unless it's life or death, I just don't get it. I don't understand it. What is there to be afraid of? What is the worst they could do? And as I get older, that just resonates even further and it resonates louder. I don't, I'm not concerned with or fear. I'm not in fear of what I can lose. Because I always look at it, worse things can happen. So with that being said, let's get on the fellas. Fellas, this is our issue. The topic again is emotional maturity or emotional immaturity, depending on how you want to look at it. This is Straight Talk, Lisa Straight Understanding. I ask you, if you're joining me, please subscribe, please like, please share, all those comment, all of those good things. And I appreciate in advance you doing so. And we're going to talk about it. If you want to join me, there will be a link inside the chat room. If you want to join me, and you can join me, but I think I'm going to tackle this. And after I do this, I'm going to be joining one of my friends, Illasophical, on his broadcast on YouTube. So come check me out there after we finish here. So first off, let's get on the fellas. Men. You know what? Our emotional immaturity shows up in a lot of different ways. One of the most significant immature things that we do is we have a tendency to be hoes, and we immaturely blame it on, oh, that's our nature. No, it's not our nature. And it's fine. A hoe to me is somebody who will do anything to get some sex. And there's a lot of people who are like that. But men, I'm talking to you specifically. You guys, and your emphasis on doing anything to get sex, anything to get into a woman's panties, anything to get to the home plate, as they would call it. And a lot of us have done it. We have blamed it on our youth. Oh, I've just saw my wild oats. No, you was being emotionally immature. You wasn't considering anybody but yourself. You was being very selfish, and you didn't care what you needed to do, who you needed to hurt in order to get to what you wanted. And that's just the reality of it. And we often, part of our immaturity is that we often don't take accountability of that. We excuse it. We'll come up with all of these excuses of why people are doing it and this, that, and another. And it's just poor excuses, and it shows the emotional immaturity that a lot of men focus. We don't tend to want to be vulnerable. That right there is one of our biggest things. We don't want to be vulnerable. We can't be looked at as weak. We don't want to be looked at as, the sucker, the simp, the blah, 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 blah. And which I can understand some of those things. But like I said earlier, in my opinion, lying is a weakness. So if you don't want to be weak, why are you lying? Now, I'm not condemning or advocating monogamy. Let me just be clear. I'm not advocating monogamy. No, you don't have to be monogamous. But the general principle, when you are not monogamous and you are having multiple women, in this case, be honest about it. That is the key. That is what most people want. It's the honesty, the transparency, the openness. I know some people who are in poly relationships, who are in, have multiple relationships, multiple women, multiple wives. I know people who have these things. And I live vicariously through them because a woman is a responsibility and several women is several responsibilities. And I'm not sure that I want all of those responsibilities, nor do I want to, or am I able to afford all of those responsibilities. Plenty of men, when they get money, they can afford these responsibilities, but don't take it on as responsibilities. They take it on as challenges, as trophies and things of that nature, which is part of our emotional immaturity. And men, we need to stop doing that, because then guess what? We start conditioning the minds of all of these women we sleeping with because we're lying to them. Now, again, what I was just getting around to is, if you're being honest, if you present to them, look, I'm not going to be monogamous. I'm going to have several. Are you with this? Is this something that you can deal with? Then to each his own. And if the woman agrees to that, then she is responsible for her choice. And men, we don't have to lie to go ahead and get. If all you want is, let's say you want to have a good time, guess what? If you're straightforward, a lot of times, if you have the capital, if you have the resources, and you have the gift of gab, or you have the ability to speak on what it is, you can probably get what you're asking for. You just got to ask directly. Ask the ladies. Ladies will tell you. I'd rather have a man who can tell me. I just saw a survey. They said, which would you rather have? A man who will tell you everything, who's married, or a man, 45% will tell you no, who is your man and your man only. And most of the women said they would rather have a man who will tell them yes to anything. So basically what I'm saying is that if you tell them what they want to hear, which is they claim they want to hear the truth, then tell them the truth. Guess what? They might not like it, but they're going to respect it. And men, that's what we need to do. So with that being said, I'm going to go into the first video, which is showing us men, or talking about men who are emotionally immature. You can run.
Dog, you're not Superman at all.
That's it.
Because the thing is, no knock to your analogy, Clark Kent is not that man's true identity. He actually is Superman in real life, and Clark Kent, who he got to pretend to be for everybody else. Big dog, you not Superman at all. Stop pretending to be more than human for these women, bro. Because that's why she denies your humanity in situations like you do train a woman. Like, bro, when you show up with no emotions and you like, bro, I'm good. Like, I'm straight. No, I got it. She gonna get used to that. And she gonna think that in situations, even when you are under duress, even when you stressed out, that you got it. So she's gonna make a habit of not checking on you. Even if she do check on you, she's not going to investigate. I'm fine. I got it. She's not going to check your capacity because you've been guarding that from her, dog. For what? You know what I'm saying? Like, you denying your own humanity. And that's one thing I do got to jab men about. And like, Ace, you leaned into this. We can't keep talking about how women don't respect our emotions and make room for us if you going to show up without the emotions, G.
Here we go.
Fellas, regardless, if you don't practice identifying your emotions, being able to articulate your emotions, knowing when it's right to express them and when it's not, bro, you're going to be bad at that forever. And it's not a woman's responsibility to let you know when you safe. That's on you.
Yes, 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 yes. I will reiterate that. And this is what I'm talking about. That is a sign of an emotionally immature man. That is a sign. That is a clear indication of an emotionally immature man. Somebody who say, I got it," don't know how to speak openly, don't know how to express his emotion, don't know how to tell, yo, that hurt my feelings, don't know how to say that. Men who don't know how to say, nah, I need some help. Those men, they're not emotionally mature. They don't know how to express the truth. They don't even know how to face the truth. They are believing the lie that they're Clark Kent, that they created in order to disguise the Superman that they are in his description. And so we hide ourselves and try and be Superman. Superman had, despite as many strengths, he had some things that made him vulnerable. Kryptonite made Superman vulnerable. Again, kryptonite made Superman vulnerable. And men, although we can be those supermen and we sometimes disguise it because it might be overbearing and we might be intrusive with our bravado, we cannot sit and ignore the fact that we have kryptonites. And those kryptonites might be women. Those kryptonites might be alcohol or something else. Those kryptonite might be procrastination. But nonetheless, we have kryptonites. But it's up to us in order to be able to deflect or protect ourselves from those kryptonite, to be able to identify not only to others, but to ourselves what those kryptonites are. So yeah, we can be those supermen that we claim to be and that we want to be and that we are designed to be. But nah, we ain't gonna be a kryptonite continuously. I mean, we ain't gonna be a Superman continuously trying to praise Clark Kent. Clark Kent is the disguise of the Superman who we are, because we don't want everybody to know that we have these superpowers and when we have these abilities is why we're disguising it, because people sometimes want to try to use those abilities to their advantage instead of using them for what we're designed to give it to them for. So yeah, we are Supermen, but we do have kryptonites, and those kryptonites can be very harmful and make us very vulnerable. But our biggest emotional immaturity is when we're not able to accept that, we're not able to identify that, and we're not able to at that point protect that. So with that being said, I got on the men. Men, y'all need to get it together. We need to get it together and understand that the real measure of emotional maturity is recognizing where we have weaknesses and where we have immaturity so that we can build, strengthen them. All right. So now let's have a lady talk about the reflections of what immaturity, emotional immaturity looks like in women. So let's run video number 2 where they have emotionally immaturity women.
Unpopular opinion. A lot of women are not as emotionally mature as they claim to be or that they've convinced you that they are. Because emotional maturity is the ability to understand, manage, and express your feelings and your emotions in a healthy way inside of your relationship whenever you're facing challenges, especially whenever you're mad. And whenever most women get upset, the only feeling that they know how to express in that moment is anger. Self-awareness leaves the building. Self-regulation is gone. Empathy is not there. Accountability never even enters at all. We ain't gonna even mention that word. That's gonna make them a little bit madder, and they no longer know how to communicate in a healthy manner. But they're emotionally mature. But that's not something that can just come and go. Because when you're emotionally mature, you're very mindful of your emotions and you're mature enough to handle them. Think about it.
All right, ladies. Now, I want y'all to think about it. I want y'all to think about it, ladies, because what she just described is an emotionally immature woman who cannot contain her emotions, who cannot handle what it is that she says she can handle, who is not honest with herself when she can't handle it. I give an example of when I used to tell women who I knew, don't meet me with anger, because anger only attracts anger. And you drop your IQ, as Tarika just said, when you're angry. And that's not something that compliments you or is promising. That is not something that we should participate in. That's something that we have to mature out of. That's something that we have to keep content. That anger, which is breeded by that pride, which is breeded by the fact that you don't want it, the pride, and want to disguise you being vulnerable or you being hurt. That's what it boils down to. And what I was sharing with you a second ago is I remember telling women who met me with anger because I hurt their feelings. And I didn't mean to hurt their feelings, but they didn't let me know that I hurt their feelings. And what they told me and what they lashed out about and what they was trying to get defensive on is whether it was my tone or whether it was my words, whatever it was that hurt their feelings. And instead of letting me know that I hurt their feelings, they got angry and tried to defend and get defensive, which then triggered me to be defensive as well. So now we're going at it. And it's not going to be a good thing when you're going at it with somebody at all, whether they're a loving person, whether there's somebody you trust, whether there's somebody you don't know at all. Once you start confronting one another in an angry manner, all bets are off. All humanity is gone. All logical thinking and possibilities of de-escalating that is now almost unattainable. And it simply comes from not being emotionally enough mature to recognize, look, I'm angry. And that goes for both genders. That's not just women, although we were speaking about the ladies. I got a bunch of emotionally immature men sitting in prisons. Not all, but many of the men who are sitting in prisons got angry and let their emotions get the best of them. And we tend to wear it like a badge of honor at times. Oh, I've been locked up. That's not a badge of honor. That was an emotional immaturity, a mistake, or you got caught doing something that you wasn't supposed to get caught doing. And that's 7 out of 10 times, I would imagine, because 30% person was innocent and they just got caught up in a bad situation. So I'm not speaking about those brothers. But that's 70% to where they just couldn't regulate their emotions, or they just couldn't identify that they were triggered before they let the situation escalate into a place that got them in a bad circumstance and a bad predicament because they reacted instead of thinking. We all been guilty of it. I don't know if y'all have, but I've been guilty of it. I'm still guilty of it because, like I said, emotional maturity is growing, and we still have places and spaces to grow in. And I definitely can attest that I still have places to grow, even the places that I have matured out of. I sometimes find myself reverting, going back into it. And I'm sure you might as well. So, this is why we're having this discussion on emotional maturity, because we need to learn how to nip it in the bud, learn how to be a bit more mature, learn how to be a bit more stable when it comes to balancing out and regulating our emotions, de-escalating situations as opposed to pouring fuel on a fire to have them escalate and get out of control, and be able to do it not only amongst one another, but amongst our family members, amongst our spouses, and so on and so forth. So we're going to look at the definition. I want you to put the next picture up, the video, and let it sit there for a second. Let's pause it so I can read it. All right. Emotional maturity is the ability to understand and manage emotions effectively, leading to healthier relationships, decision making, and a more balanced life. It involves acknowledging and controlling feelings, accepting accountability for actions, and dealing with confrontation with awareness rather than ego. Emotionally mature individuals can handle their emotions without letting them run the show, without letting them and taking responsibility, pausing before reacting, and approaching conflict with empathy. Emotional maturity is not an innate trait, but rather a skill that can be developed through self awareness, practice, and patience. It requires cultivating self-reflection, empathy, and emotional regulation. By growing your emotional maturity stronger, you can enhance your emotional literacy, build stronger relationships, and lead a more fulfilling life, is what they say. Remember, it's never too late to grow emotionally. And each step you take towards emotional maturity brings you closer, and it makes you a happier life and a more healthier life. So that is the definition, according to AI, the compilation of what emotional maturity looks like and what it is. If you can't see it, I'll read it to you again, because these are the qualities that are necessary for emotional maturity. And we all can use it. So here we go again. Emotional maturity is the ability to understand and manage your emotions effectively. Got to understand them in order to manage them, y'all. Got to know what they are in order to be able to regulate where they go. All right. And leading to healthier relationships and decision making, a more balanced life is what emotional maturity can actually reflect. All right. So with that, it involves acknowledging and controlling your feelings. So first off, we got to acknowledge it, y'all. We got to acknowledge it. That's the one thing that we often have a tendency to miss. We don't acknowledge that we have an issue with our emotions. We just, especially in this day and age with social media, we condone it because it's popular. We think that it's okay and that it's normal, and it's really not. So in order to acknowledge it, accepting accountability is the next step. Once you acknowledge it, you have to accept accountability when you are out of control. When these bad behaviors are happening, we have to be able to accept that we're out of control, that our emotions are out of control, and take accountability that, yo, I'm just acting like a a-hole. And sometimes we do that, but we don't like hearing it. And if somebody checks you on it, it's not up for you to start defending and trying to make like, oh, that ain't me, that ain't happening, and get defensive. It's for you to say, you know what, you're right, because this is as the young lady always says, unpopular belief, unpopular opinion. We are here to judge one another. I will show you scripture that will testify to that, seeing that a lot of people like to go to scripture and say we're not to judge. Oh yes, there is. And it's not being judgmental, it's observing and being the balance between one another. We are here to check one another. This whole world is based around judgment, but for some reason when that judgment is pointed at us, we want to get defensive and say, who are you to judge me? You are my brother, you're my sister. That's who judges. And those are people that we should be able to receive judgment from. We receive it from actual judges who have no relationship with us whatsoever. All they have is education. They don't have no empathy often. They have understanding because they have seen a lot of different things, but they don't always have all the right answers. But we allow them to judge. We allow our bosses who are paying us to judge. So why wouldn't we allow somebody who we know has our best interests, who we understand loves us significantly, maybe more than anyone else? You know that saying, I love you more. All those people, why wouldn't we trust to be able to have them judge us? When we are rehearsing something, we go and ask our spouse or those people, how you think I'm doing? How you like this? And we're asking them to judge us for some reason. When they're extending judgment or criticism, we don't take it constructively. But that's neither here nor there, so I digress. Let's go back to the definition. It also involves acknowledging and controlling feelings, accepting accountability for your actions, and dealing with the confrontation with the awareness rather than ego. Dealing with confrontation with awareness rather than ego. I got to say that again. Dealing with confrontation with awareness rather than ego. Our egos will get us in so many dilemmas. because we allow our ego and our pride to take us to places that just stir us up and that get us in an emotional roller coaster and get us emotionally out of control. And I ain't saying no, this has never been a gender specific. This is not race specific. This is just human specific. We as humans lose our humanity because we follow our ego. So I'm going to continue. Emotionally mature individuals can handle their emotions without letting them run the show. Taking responsibility, pausing before reacting, and approaching conflict with empathy, as we just discussed. Emotionally maturity, Emotional maturity is not an innate trait. It's not something that we're born with. It's something, but rather a skill that can be developed through self-awareness, practice. I'm gonna emphasize that practice, self-awareness, and then you have to practice it. And patience. Boy, that's a significant word, patience, because that patience is what can help us not get offended and not get triggered as quickly. Patience. So it also requires cultivating self reflection. You got to be able to look at yourself. You got to be able to look at yourself in the mirror. And that's where that judging that I was just speaking about a second ago comes into play, because we're not always able to look or put a mirror up to ourselves. And our mirror is sometimes our loved ones who are identifying certain things that we might not be able to see. But if we take offense to it, we would think that they're doing it purposely to hurt us. And that's not really their goal. They're actually doing it to help us. And if we can't recognize that they're here to help, that's a whole nother show. And it's called trust. And that trust is a whole nother episode that we'll get into one day again in the future. All right. So it requires cultivating self reflection, empathy, and emotional regulations. By growing your emotional maturity, you can enhance your emotional literacy, build stronger relationships, and lead a more fulfilling life. Wow. So remember, it's never too late to start growing emotionally. And each step you take towards emotional maturity brings you closer to a happier, healthier life. So that's what the definition is. So I hope that that helps. I hope that that summarizes it. And now, before we leave, we're going to get into a couple of different videos that will give us maybe some tools to recognizing it, and maybe even a couple of tools to better deal with it by a couple of these psychologists that and therapists that I looked up in the lab. So we could play the fourth video.
Emotionally intelligent people deal with problems that nobody sees, because the way you're built gets misunderstood by people who aren't built like you. Problem number one is you can feel what people don't say. You read tone, energy, micro expressions, all of it. So when someone's words don't match their feelings, your body knows instantly. But instead of accepting it, people get defensive because you're picking up on truths that they're trying to hide from themselves. And that sensitivity isn't a flaw. It's the intuition that most people never develop. And problem number two, you care very deeply and you love extremely hard. And because you're built that way, you give in ways that most people don't know how to reciprocate. You support, you show up, you pour energy into people, but takers just see you as free fuel. They confuse your kindness for weakness, not realizing it takes more strength to stay open-hearted in a world that forced everyone else to shut down. And lastly, you outgrow people fast. You're self-aware, you notice patterns, you self-correct, you evolve. Meanwhile, most people around you stay comfortable in their cycles. So your growth makes them uncomfortable, not because you're changing too much, but because you're expanding beyond the version of themselves that they refuse to outgrow. Your evolution exposes their resistance. And here's the truth that most people never hear. There's nothing wrong with you. Your emotional intelligence is not a burden. It's a compass. It's what breaks generational cycles. It's what heals families. It's what makes you different in the best way possible. You're not too sensitive. You just live life with a depth that most people are not brave enough to touch.
Whoo, man. I hope that was a video. I hope that was a video that could be helpful. I hope that was something that you can take heed to, because that is a description of an emotionally intelligent, emotionally mature person. And a lot of those characteristics that he was describing, a lot of those things that he had given signs were sometimes looked down upon because you have them or because you are displaying them, when in fact it's just you might be displaying them or you might be having them around people who just aren't where you are just yet. And so don't take it as something is wrong with you. And frankly, don't take it as something is wrong with them either. Just understand and recognize that you might be in two different places. Biblically, they say you need to be equally yoked. And that's just a way and or a description of how people who are equally yoked and what it might look like. For example, if you're practicing, let's say, kung fu, karate, for 5 times a week, and then you take a break on the weekend and you've been doing it diligently for 3 years. A person who hasn't been working out as much is not supposed to be in the same place and or level as you, no matter how athletically gifted they are. So you might have an advantage and you might be in a different space than them. And when they come to you, they might feel they're in the same place. And the truth is they're just not. They haven't been doing 5 times a week for 2 years. Now, you may run into somebody who's been doing it 7 times a week for 8 years. You're not quite where they are. As much as you've been doing it 5 times a week for 3 years, you still will not be at the level of the person who's been doing it 7 times a week for 8 years. And we have to be able to accept that. And often our ego, our pride, does not want to accept that. And hence we start taking offense and thinking somebody's looking down on you, somebody being condescending, when somebody's just telling you the truth. You're not doing as much as they're doing. So you're not on the level that they're on. I believe some other players would say it about Kobe Bryant, about when they were out having fun and going to clubs, he was in the gym. So his tenacity on a court, his audacity on a court was not something that was, uh, you know, outlandish or something that was, atrocious. He was just, that's what he worked towards, and they did not work there. They might have been more athletically gifted. People were more athletically gifted than Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, but they went to the gym and they practiced work. And so it wasn't arrogance that they were displaying when they would come up and talk mess to the other players. It wasn't arrogance, which the other players looked at it. Oh, you think you all that? No, I know I'm all that. It was called confidence because they were putting in the work to become all that. And unfortunately, when you're putting in that work to somebody who doesn't put in that work, you might look arrogant. You might look like you have the audacity to even speak condescending to them, when in fact you just are being honest and confident about the work that you put in that they did not. And it's unfortunate when they don't, because they take offense and don't take heed to the fact that you might even be trying to help them when you're saying, yo, maybe you don't want to go to the club. Oh man, you just hate, you just hating on my lifestyle. No, I'm just trying to tell you how to be better. Hence that judging that you think that somebody's doing. No, they're just observing that you're not doing your best. They're observing that you can do better. And they might be understanding because they practice it. And they were the ones explaining that they're practicing what they preach. And most of us, and I will say most of us, have a tendency to shun that away. So if you want to shun it away, that's on you. But as the man just said, those are just descriptions of what an emotionally mature person looks like. All right. So I'm going to play this last video and then we'll discuss it. Then I'll play all the videos one by one so that y'all can see the progress, and we're going to be out of here. All right. So let's play that last video.
5 signs someone lacks emotional maturity. Number 1, they never take ownership. Emotionally mature people can recognize when they're wrong and admit mistakes. People who are emotionally immature avoid responsibility at all costs. Their ego protects their pride instead of protecting the relationship, and that makes accountability feel threatening instead of healthy. Number 2, they can't admit when they're wrong. When someone calls them out, they get very defensive. They argue and their viewpoint has to win even when there's clear evidence that they're mistaken. Emotionally mature people can recognize when their perspective isn't accurate, and that's what allows them to grow. Emotionally immature people never grow because they never allow their viewpoint to be questioned. Number 3, they rely on passive aggression. Emotionally mature people communicate things directly. People who lack emotional maturity hide behind subtle digs or disguised comments, and when they're called out, they say they were just joking or tell others to stop being so sensitive. It's their way of expressing displeasure while avoiding honest communication. Number 4, they disrespect boundaries. Someone who lacks emotional maturity will push, cross, or ignore boundaries even after being told no. They insist, they pressure, and they often throw a fit when they don't get their way. Someone with emotional maturity can actually respect another person's limits without turning it into a power struggle. Number 5, they have poor self-control. They let impulses and urges run the show. Instead of pausing, thinking, or responding intentionally, they act first and deal with the consequences later.
So yeah, those are 5 signs. So yes, those are 5 signs of a person who is emotionally immature. Now, I will say I've been guilty of probably all 5 of them. I sometimes still am guilty of some of them. So this is not a dig at anybody who's not there, because we all might have some struggles on getting there. But this is hopefully giving an example of how we can identify it, recognize it, and grow so that we can mature it and we can contain and balance our emotions and be a little bit better for ourselves so that we can be better to others. All right. So that's really what this is about with this whole emotional maturity thing I wanted to tackle, simply because I run into so many people, including myself, that just display immature behaviors, that just displays immature impulses, that just display immature actions. And it becomes drastic to everybody who's around it or who partakes or who it affects. And I just think that we need to have a better understanding on how to, one, recognize it so that we can check one another, so that we can judge one another. That's the word that I'm going to be using pretty often in the future, because it is a very popular thing for people to understand, or people to say, who are you to judge? Well, I'm asking you all, judge me. Put in the comments the judgments of what you feel about me, and let's discuss it. Because let's not have any issues with judging one another. Let's just have an open discussion, an open ability to interact with each other about our different perspectives. That's what makes a good conversation. Is as long as you don't take offense to the conversation and you don't take it personally, it will not grow into an argument. It can maybe grow into a debate, a healthy debate that can benefit one or both of us or all of those who are involved. It may become a very in-depth conversation, which can also help one or all of us involved. But if we don't allow, or we contain our emotions and don't take offense to whatever is being said, whether we like it or not, it won't escalate into an argument. And to me, the difference between a conversation and an argument, and again, to me, is that the conversation, no offense is taken. it turns into an argument when somebody takes offense. So it has nothing to do with tone or passion or anything, because great example is when we're in barbershops. If you were to come into a barbershop or come amongst a bunch of men who are friends and they're having a discussion, let's say about sports or something else, you might think a fight is about to jump off. They'll be like, yo, I'm just saying, yo, watch your mouth, man. I'm just saying, no. And it sounds as if it's a very significant altercation between the people, especially from an outsider looking in. But despite all that passion, despite all of those emotions, despite all of that volume, they have not taken offense to what one another is saying. So it's just a very passionate conversation. But as soon as one of them take offense, yo, hold up, what you saying though? That's when it turns left. And the same goes with ladies and their conversation amongst each other. They could be hey, leg, bitch, and this, that, and other. And they be talking to each other, and it sounds very disrespectful. But they know that they're not. But as soon as one person takes offense to that bitch, or takes offense to that wording, or takes offense to that tone, it becomes an argument and it turns left. So let's contain our emotions, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do better at that. I'm going to play each one of the videos and then we're going to be out of here. Again, this is Sean Bolden. This is Straight Talk, leads to Straight Understanding. And today's topic is emotional maturity. So let's start off. The first video is a man who is being immature. The second video is describing a woman and her depictions of her immaturity. The third video we're going to skip is just the definition. Then we'll get into the fourth video, which is a gentleman describing how an emotionally mature or emotionally intelligent person looks. And the fifth video is the signs of how we can tell emotionally immature. So let's go to those videos and then we're going to be out of here, y'all. So video number 1, let's start it.
Unpopular opinion.
That's true.
A lot of women are not as emotionally mature as they claim to be. Or
Dog, you're not Superman at all. Because the thing is, no knock to your analogy, Clark Kent is not that man's true identity.
Yep.
He actually is Superman in real life, and Clark Kent, who he got to pretend to be for everybody else.
Yep.
Big dog, you not Superman at all. Stop pretending to be more than human for these women, bro.
Yep.
Because that's why she denies your humanity in situations like you do train a woman like, bro, when you show up with no emotions and you like, bro, I'm good, like, I'm straight. No, I got it. She gonna get used to that.
Yep.
And she gonna think that in situations, even when you are under duress, even when you stressed out, that you got it. So she's gonna make a habit of not checking on you.
So
even if she
fronting,
do check
brother.
on you, she's not gonna investigate. I'm fine. I got it. She's not gonna check your capacity because you've been guarding that from her, dog.
Yep.
For what?
They don't want to
You
be
know what I'm saying?
vulnerable.
Like, you denying your own humanity, and that's one thing I do gotta to jab men about. And like, Ace, you leaned into this. We can't keep talking about how women don't respect our emotions and make room for us if you gonna show up without the emotions, G.
There we go.
Fellas,
fronting.
regardless, if you don't practice identifying your emotions, being able to articulate your emotions, knowing when it's right to express them and when it's not, bro, you're gonna be bad at that forever. And it's not a woman's responsibility to let you know when you safe. That's on you.
Yep. And here comes the woman.
unpopular opinion. A lot of women are not as emotionally mature as they claim to be, or that they've convinced you that they are. Because emotional maturity is the ability to understand, manage, and express your feelings and your emotions in a healthy way inside of your relationship whenever you're facing challenges, especially whenever you're mad. And whenever most women get upset, the only feeling that they know how to express in that moment is anger. Self-awareness leaves the building. Self-regulation is gone. Empathy is not there. Accountability never even enters at all. We ain't gonna even mention that word. That's gonna make them a little bit madder, and they no longer know how to communicate in a healthy manner. But they're emotionally mature. But that's not something that can just come and go. Because when you're emotionally mature, you're very mindful of your emotions and you're mature enough to handle them. Think about it.
Think about it. Think about it.
Emotionally intelligent people deal with problems that nobody sees because the way you're built gets misunderstood by people who aren't built like you. Problem number 1 is you can feel what people don't say. You read tone, energy, micro expressions, all of it. So when someone's words don't match their feelings, your body knows instantly. But instead of accepting it, people get defensive because you're picking up on truths that they're trying to hide from themselves. And that sensitivity isn't a flaw. It's the intuition that most people never develop. And problem number 2, you care very deeply and you love extremely hard. And because you're built that way, you give in ways that most people don't know how to reciprocate. You support, you show up, you pour energy into people, but takers just see you as free fuel. They confuse your kindness for weakness, not realizing it takes more strength to stay open-hearted in a world that forced everyone else to shut down. And lastly, you outgrow people fast. You're self-aware, you notice patterns, you self-correct, you evolve. Meanwhile, most people around you stay comfortable in their cycles. So your growth makes them uncomfortable, not because you're changing too much, but because you're expanding beyond the version of themselves that they refuse to outgrow. Your evolution exposes their resistance. And here's the truth that most people never hear. There's nothing wrong with you. Your emotional intelligence is not a burden, it's a compass. It's what breaks generational cycles. It's what heals families. It's what makes you different in the best way possible. You're not too sensitive. You just live life with a depth that most people are not brave enough to touch.
Yep. There we go.
5 signs someone lacks emotional
5 signs
maturity.
someone
Number
lacks
1, they never take ownership. Emotionally mature people can recognize when they're wrong and admit mistakes. People who are emotionally immature avoid responsibility at all costs. Their ego protects their pride instead of protecting the relationship, and that makes accountability feel threatening instead of healthy. Number 2, they can't admit when they're wrong. When someone calls them out, they get very defensive. They argue and their viewpoint has to win even when there's clear evidence that they're mistaken. Emotionally mature people can recognize when their perspective isn't accurate, and that's what allows them to grow. Emotionally immature people never grow because they never allow their viewpoint to be questioned. Number 3, they rely on passive aggression. Emotionally mature people communicate things directly. People who lack emotional maturity hide behind subtle digs or disguised comments, and when they're called out, they say they were just joking or tell others to stop being so sensitive. It's their way of expressing displeasure while avoiding honest communication. Yep. Number 4, they disrespect boundaries. Someone who lacks emotional maturity will push, cross, or ignore boundaries even after being told no. They insist, they pressure, and they often throw a fit when they don't get their way. Someone with emotional maturity can actually respect another person's limits without turning it into a power struggle. Number 5, they have poor self-control. They let impulses and urges run the show. Instead of pausing, thinking, or responding intentionally, they act first and deal with the consequences later.
Yes. I'm still dealing with 4 and 5. The 5th one I'm better at. The 4th one I'm still working on. So with that being said, I hope this was insightful to you all. I hope that you were able to get some gems. If you were, please share. Please comment if you were not. I thank you all for joining, who joined me. Hey, Taish, what's going down? Getting ready to wrap it up here. We was talking about emotional maturity, speaking about some videos that show signs of emotional maturity in both men and women, as well as gave some ideas and definitions of what emotional intelligence and maturity looks like. And lastly, we gave some signs on how to identify and recognize it. So with that being said, I'm about to get out of here, but thank you for joining. I appreciate you all. Love you all. I thank you for commenting, subscribing, liking, whatever it is that you are prompted to do or that you're motivated to do. I thank you in advance for it. And I hope more importantly that this straight talk left to a better understanding or straight understanding so that in the future you can receive, you can extend, and you can embrace other people's perspective, and they can get yours as well. All right. So with that being said, this is Sean Bolden, Sean B. This is Straight Talk Leads to Straight Understanding. Join me next week. We will be here again. I want to send a shout out to Peter, with the loss of his one of his best friends, Alex. Gonna be missed. And I also want to say that if you tune in next week, it will be something that we can talk. If you got any subjects you want to speak about it, that you want to be spoken about it, that you want to join me with, please put them in the comments. Please DM me. Please send me a shout out, and we can do that as well in the future. All right, Sean Bolden, Sean B, Straight Talk leads to straight understanding. Hope you enjoy. May God bless you, and may your camels be fertile. Peace.